There's a ladder that rises up, climbing up, rung by rung. There's a ladder that rises up into the Lord. There's a long and a winding road, mountain high, valley low. There's a road that'll lead you there, up into the Lord.
All right, cool. So I think we should just intro, be like, hey, I'm Miss Portia, and I'll be like, I'm Devin, and then and then you'll be like, this is Travis' team or something like that. So we'll count in on 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, hello, I'm Portia Moore, CEO and founder of TRAP, the Transitional Reentry Adult Program.
And I'm Devin. I'm just here along for the ride.
And today we will be introducing TRAP ESTEEM, Trapped into Transition podcast.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the podcast, Miss Portia. Let's kind of go over it and kind of break it down and kind of look at like what we're trying to accomplish here.
Okay, so basically what I want to accomplish with this podcast is just allowing the people to see that those with criminal backgrounds, they do have a desire to become law-abiding, productive citizens, and they're just lacking the skill set, the knowledge, and resources to help them to receive those different opportunities.
Yeah. And so we'll kind of be talking to people who have been through the experience of reentering society from incarceration over the course of the podcast, and so some of their stories are truly remarkable, and they've been through a lot. So it'll be a really interesting journey to kind of explore some of what their stories are. And so to me, it strikes me as something that, you know, we're really in a lot of ways we're really like sitting here and we're humanizing people, because sometimes when you go through the system, you become kind of just a number in it. So is that kind of the goal here a little bit?
Yes. With my organization, I basically try to let them feel like they're a person, like you said. They're not just a number, and I want to personally help each individual that is coming to the organization, trusting us to help them to better themselves.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about because this whole podcast evolved from your organization. So talk to me about the whole TRAP program and all the things that you do.
Okay, so TRAP is the Transitional Reentry Adult Program, and our mission is to transition the mindset of those justice impacted and assist them in the navigation of life after incarceration. So basically that consists of assisting them to get health care, housing assistance, job readiness, workforce development, so that they can obtain sustainable employment. Basically, I try to help them with any barriers that they're facing. Everyone has different situations, different things going on in their lives, and they just don't have anyone that can point them in the right direction of what they need to be doing to better themselves.
Yeah, so in a lot of ways, I mean, you're kind of helping them build from the foundation up in some ways, right?
Yes. And self-esteem building is a major part in it, because if you think about it, if you've been incarcerated and you have this label on you, people are stereotyping you, regardless to if you're a repeat offender or not, it just kind of puts you in a low space, a dark space, to where you feel that the small things that you are getting, that's where you should be at, and that's not how it goes. I just try to tell them that they have to activate their ask. If you're asking for a better way of life, what are you doing? Are you doing your part to get yourself to that point, or are you basically just sitting back waiting on a handout for someone to put you in a position outside of you getting yourself in a position?
Yeah, for sure. And so you mentioned like some of the barriers that they face. What are like the most common ones that you see?
Most common barriers for a person that's justice impacted, I would say, is housing and employment. You do have the healthcare portion of it, but I would say the top 2 things would be the housing and employment. A lot of them cannot be released from incarceration until they have stable housing to go to. So if you don't have the opportunity or option to go to a halfway house, you're basically still having to sit there until you get something in order as far as for your housing plan. So I think that that's a very major key to it. And then just the employment piece. You come home, you're ready to get on the right track, but you're still getting barriers and pushback with people saying, no, you have this on your background, you have this, no, you're on probation. So there are several things like that I feel like kind of hinders them and keeps them in a stagnant mode as far as not being able to move forward how they would like.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's got to be, there's already so much pressure on you to reintegrate back into society, and then you're just getting told no over and over again. It sounds like it's just very, it just sounds very hard.
Very deterring. A lot of people, it'll kind of push them back into their old way of life because they have to survive. And not all of them have the patience to go through different programming and things like that. But what I've been able to identify is if the right person presents it to them, they're able to break through that hard shell to get that understanding and show them that compassion and to show them how to humble themselves and just be patient and trust the process.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's I think a huge thing is just trusting the process, but also like you said, having someone that can kind of stick with them and be there for them. And so what are some strategies you kind of use to kind of like help them along? Like, is there everyone's different, every case is different, obviously, but like, is there some, what are some ways you kind of help people kind of like get there, or help them keep the path.
Basically, when they come in, I have my one-on-one assessment with them. I use my story as a testimony to let them know that there is hope regardless of your background. We are not our past. So basically just telling them my experiences and what I went through. A lot of people will say, well, you telling all your business, but we're here to be a blessing to each other. So my story may help someone else to get their life together. So I've matured and gotten to that point in my life where I realize that. So me sharing my story and telling them what I experienced are some things that they experience. And it's just like I said, just giving them hope that they too can overcome those barriers.
Yeah, and it makes them be able to relate to you in a really like tangible way. And you mentioned also, you have family members and people who are incarcerated, so it's almost like it's very personal for you in a lot of ways.
Yes, very personal. I do still have several family members and friends that are in the streets or in incarceration, and I just do my due diligence to try to express to them that there are resources here to help you where you can get from that way of life and just start to live your life accordingly how you should. I have come into acceptance of I can really help someone that's a total stranger better than I can help a family member. And I think it's just because with your family, they're used to you, they're comfortable to you, they hear you, but they don't hear you. But when it comes to a total stranger coming into my office, they are open to anything that I'm telling them that could be a resource for them to do better.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I think that's something really profound because it's sometimes you're too close to somebody to be able to help them in some ways, or to be able to effectively help them. There's all these layers of your past together, and so
sometimes they just have to hear it from somebody else. Yeah. And that's understandable too, because the people that come in here, I'm sure the same thing that I tell them they've heard from mom, dad, brother, sister, grandma, but hearing it from someone else, they can receive it better. And that's why I say reducing recidivism requires relatability. Who better to tell you how to get your life together than somebody that's actually in that same situation or have been in that situation?
It's almost like, people, like you said, are more willing to hear it because it's like an unbiased third party who's not, they don't know you, they don't technically have to care about you at all, but for them to tell you that, it maybe helps it click a little bit more. Just talk to me about, so there's various like routes people can take. When I've seen you working with people, it seems like what you do is you make yourself like very available to them in so many different ways, and you help them in so many different aspects, which kind of like helps lift them up, which I think helps really like kind of that. I mean that's what they need, in the beginning maybe is just somebody to be there for them whenever they need. Meet them where they're at. So
that's it. Meeting them where they're at. We have to acknowledge that, they're not used to what others are used to. So it may take them a little longer to get it, but if you don't have someone that's patient and humble that can walk along that way with you, it's more harder for them. But if they have someone that's understanding and compassionate, they're going to gravitate to them. They're going to listen to them more so than anybody else. And that's what I found out. That's why I'm so successful with what I'm doing. They come in, I do the assessment. I ask them if they have their GED diploma, how is their housing, any employment experience, just getting all that information. The ones that have a GED or diploma, I try to encourage them to get enrolled in school. So I have a partnership with TCAT, Tennessee College of Applied Technology, and they have assisted me in getting several of my participants enrolled in school. People that thought they'll never get a chance to go to school, didn't know how to enroll, didn't know how to complete FAFSA. But when you have community partners that are willing to be hands-on just as well as you are, we can really change the community and build them up.
Yeah, it's like I guess that's the biggest question is like how do you kind of start breaking down that stigma around like people who are reintegrating back into society and trying to make their way back in an honest way. Like how do we make it easier to open doors for them? How do we make it easier to help them along the path, whether it's offering them a job, whether it's not, holding their past against them.
Just being in a no judgment zone. I really feel like that's what has helped me to be successful with the population that I'm serving. You get a lot of people that are in reentry organizations and things of that nature. They're really considered a number. They're doing it like that's just their job. They're just collecting a check. When it comes to me and some of my community partners, it's more so hard work where, we're working from the heart. We really just want to see people in a better space and place in life, and we're doing our due diligence to get them there.
Yeah, well, you gotta take. Well, just speaking of that, Miss Portia's never stops working.
Yeah.
So she's gotta take a call real quick I think we'll make it part of the fight. You gotta take a call. You gotta do your business to help to continue helping people. So we'll be right back after this quick call. Oh, I guess we should say like, hey, we're back or something like that. But heart work. You talked to me a little bit about heart work.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me what that means to you.
So hard work to me is working with the community or any kind of work that you're doing where you don't have to get paid. I mean, yes, we all have to be able to sustain as far as our lifestyles and paying our bills, but hard work is work that you're willing to put in regardless to if you're getting paid for it or not. It's more about just being able to help the people, being a blessing to someone else, to help them get in a better space and place in life, and just being fueled from the outcome of seeing the success of it. So, I really feel like my first 2 years was a lot of hard work because I didn't receive a single dime. I was spending my own personal money that I had, going towards pouring into TRAP and being able to help the different participants with things that they needed. I try to help them with bus fare, Uber fare when I can, and I don't have much money myself, but I may be in a better situation than others. So for me to give them $5 or $10, I don't feel like that'll be something that'll break me. And then just knowing that it's going towards a good cause.
Yeah, for sure. And we should actually talk a little bit. Speaking about that, we should talk a little bit about what your call was entailing, and it was entailing setting up transportation for people, because in a lot of places in the country that's also a major barrier for people who are just as impacted. Correct?
Yes, most definitely. So basically, the call that I just had, I'm partnering with an organization here in Memphis that has a transportation service that is reasonable. I've gotten several people employment opportunities to where they just couldn't get to work. They don't have reliable transportation. City transportation isn't very up to par. Bus cuts off at a certain time. 9 times out of 10, they're late. And then as far as when it comes to Uber and Lyft, they're very expensive. So someone that is just getting reacclimated with society and working, if they're making $300, $400, $500 a week, it's just not fair for them to have to spend half or more of that to get to work. And that's something else that'll kind of deter them. Like, I'm just working for gas money to get to work, and it's not really effectively helping them to be established as far as the foundation of paying bills and things of that nature.
I could see that being so frustrating. Just you're literally just spending your money. It's almost like they're stealing your money because you're not like, the only reason you're spending that money is to go to work, and then the reason you're going to work is to get money. So it's just like it's just a cycle. It strikes me as that old saying of just like being poor is or being in poverty is very expensive.
It is, because every single cent counts. Um, I mean, just as simple as taking your kids out to eat or grocery shopping. We have to look at the cost of living now. So these pay rates and things are very important to them. And, a lot of them aren't getting the best of the best pay, and they're trying to work with what they have. So, that causes a barrier for them.
Yeah, no, I mean yeah, exactly, and that just puts that level of frustration even higher, that level of deterrence, and then you start thinking, you get into this negative headspace, and that can just spiral in a lot of ways, right? And just not having the chance to like do something as simple as take your family out to eat, it's psychological in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, because you're looking at, I'm leaving my home, leaving my kids, going to clock in to do 8, 10, 12 hours. But at the end of the week, you still don't have enough money to go out and do any self-care or just family quality time. And it doesn't have to be anything expensive, but sometimes every penny counts. So I think that's what a lot of people, kind of face as a barrier too with, well, I got the employment, but the pay and the no transportation and the cost of transportation is kind of still having me at a stagnant area.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit more just about the overall direction of the podcast, and kind of where you see this going.
So the core concept of Trap ESTEEM, Trap to Transition, is rooted for transformation and empowerment. It's about overcoming the trap of past struggles and rebuilding self-esteem through reentry and personal success. The term should inspire listeners to see that their past does not define them, and what matters is their journey to self-worth, resilience, and change.
Yeah, that's a good that's an important point. Is just the journey is what matters, and I think that's a good way to live life, is to really like focus on the journey and not focus on like where you're trying to go, but just focus on enjoying it as much as you can, but also just being present in it, and I think that's something that's important to note as we go forward in this, right?
Yep. And people have to understand that the struggle is necessary. Like, you can't set a goal or say you're going to do something and think it's just going to be smooth sailing. There are going to be speed bumps, there are going to be hiccups, there are going to be mishaps, but you have to keep your stride. You have to continue to move forward. And as far as myself, I had got a little leery about some things and speed bumps that I was experiencing, but in the end of it, I just feel that I've matured so much that I now understand that you have to. It's building character. These are life learned experiences that you're going through, and it'll just show you what route to take and what route not to take in the near future. So I would just advise and say to anyone that's listening or watching, like, it's okay to go through a struggle. You may fall off the horse, but you got to get back on. And people just have to realize that we have to activate within ourselves, moving forward, doing our part to get to where you want to be, and not always expecting for others to just place it in your lap. You can't expect for others to always pat you on your back and tell you're doing a good job, which a lot of people sometimes need that from others pouring into them. But when it's not there, you have to be able to do it yourself. And that's what I tell a lot of my participants. Self-care and self-motivation is very, very important. And once we figure out how to pour positivity into ourselves, reading, watching different motivational speakers and things on YouTube, once you insert all this positivity in yourself, it's pushing the negative out. And before you know it, you're going to have a whole new mindset.
Yeah, for sure. It makes it that much sweeter when you finally do reach where you're trying to go. You can almost appreciate it even that much more because of the struggle it took you to get there.
Yeah, you're going to appreciate it if you think about it. If your mom gives you a car at 16, oh, you're going to have it piled down. You're going to have 4 or 5 people in the car. They can eat in the car. It's going to be junky. But if you work and spend your hard time and money on it, you're going to have some rules and some boundaries. So it's the same thing with our life and the goals that we're setting for ourselves. You have to have boundaries, and you have to know that you do have to separate yourself from certain people and situations. And it's not that you don't love them, you don't care about them, but right now you're trying to pour more into yourself, and sometimes we have to remove ourselves just to get in a better space.
Yeah, so just the importance of kind of extracting yourself from unhealthy or toxic situation in order to kind of like break that cycle is really important. Is that something that you kind
Very
of
important.
emphasize?
Yes, because if you think about it, if you're surrounded with negativity, negative people, negative things, negative situations, 9 times out of 10, that's what you're going to reflect unless you have a super strong mind to overcome that, which a lot of us say we have a strong mind, but we don't in actuality. So I just feel like breaking away from certain things and just kind of protecting your peace, protecting your freedom, you're going to realize that, okay, I can't be around these type of people. They're not trying to do anything. They're not trying to get themselves together, but I am. And you have to be able to disconnect to reconnect. And that's what I tell people, because I have guys that are at the Federal Halfway House. They've done, we'll just say 10, 15 years. They come out, you got people calling you, oh, I can help you get back on in the streets, and I can give you this and I can give you that. But at the same time, when you call them and tell them, man, Miss Portia got me a job, I need a ride to work, they can't come take you to work, but they're willing to put something in your hands that can put you in the same situation that you left. So those are the things that I want them to identify and just notice, like, ask people what's their motive. Why you want to be my friend? You know, why you want to be my girlfriend? Why you want to be my boyfriend? Why you want to be around me? So ask people their motive to see what are their intentions in the relationship between the both of you all. And if we ask that up front, I think that'll help us kind of know which way to move, know which direction to go in. But the surrounding of people is the main thing. You know, peer influence. It's serious. I used to say back in the day, there's no such thing as a bad influence. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because everybody's mind isn't strong. So you may be the one person that's on point, but if everyone that's surrounding you is kind of out of commission and out of pocket doing things, you may feel uncomfortable in your actual space of doing the right things, and you'll fall into what they're doing. So I think a lot of people just have to kind of look at that and just know you are your own person, you have your own mind, and you don't have to follow along with others.
So, yeah, what else do you think we need to talk about an introductory episode here to kind of get people set for the podcast? Is there anything else that kind of comes to mind?
So basically what I would say they have to look forward to is, first off, asking yourself a question of, you know, regardless of your past, are you able to succeed? And I would say yes. I would say yes. It's all on how much you're willing to invest in yourself and put forth the effort. As far as upcoming episodes that we'll have, we're going to bring on a couple of people that have experienced incarceration and just re-entering and getting reacclimated with society. They'll be speaking on their experience and situations, and then, you know, how they've connected with TRAP, and how we've assisted them along their journey, overcoming different barriers and just getting those successful outcomes from them. I also have someone that I'd like to bring in to speak on mental health awareness, because that is a major key in the justice impacted population, mental awareness and substance abuse. A lot of people like to lean away from that, but the truth is the truth, and we have to look at these matters so we can figure out how to resolve them. Who else I got coming?
Yeah, and that's, well, just that in itself is, I think, a huge point, is just mental health in general. There's a huge stigma around that and around addressing it and around like talking to a therapist, just in our society in general. And so I can imagine someone that's been in serious incarceration for I mean, you're going through traumatic things on a daily basis. There's got to be PTSD there. There's got to be just trauma, and then that's built on top of any trauma that you experienced already, kind of coming into it and compounding it. So, like, that in itself, I think is a really huge point that just doesn't get talked about enough. So the fact that you're trying to address that and give people an outlet who have been through these like really intense and horrific experiences, oftentimes is something that definitely looking forward to talking to that person about.
And I just want, you know, people of the norm to see that you may not have been in a situation, but there are several others that have been. Not justifying incarceration, but there are different things that cause people to be incarcerated, and we do have to realize that there is trauma. It's a lot of trauma. So just as we're telling them when they come home what all they need to do, you need to get a job, you need to go to school, they're not always mentally ready. And that's something that I feel that the community needs to kind of embrace, as far as giving them a little leniency, but also offering the help and the opportunities for that. They're not just going to come home and say, okay, I got mental problems, help me out. Okay, place them with someone that's going to be able to break through their hard shell, to show them that they can feel comfortable with them, and then they can express those matters about their mental illness and things of that nature. But I just want people on the outside to kind of see and hear these stories, to know that we deserve opportunities, regardless of what you see and you think. The opportunities are deserving, and just give them a chance. One thing that I've noticed over the years is, once we give them a chance, the ones that are actually investing in themselves and trying to do better, they're some of the hardest workers there are. So, we have to give them that opportunity. Give them a chance before you just shoot them down.
100%. I think that, I mean, that's in life, I think, in general. I think people should give people chances, and I'm here, the reason I'm here is because someone gave me a chance, so I understand the importance of just like getting a shot, when you need a shot, getting a shot, and then they can do the rest oftentimes. They just need that initial opportunity, and I think that's so true for so many people who are just like looking for an opportunity, and yeah, just really giving people a chance, I think, is, and like you said, also having patience with people, because that's another thing. They're not going to come home and be ready to integrate. Like, it's like there's going to be kinks that you got to work out. There's going to be trials and tribulations from there. They're not coming home ready-made. They're coming home having to build a foundation from the ground up oftentimes, right?
Yeah, like I feel like they need not just a computer 101, but Android and iPhone 101, because everything is done electronically as far as applications and things like that. I had a young man yesterday, I was helping him to apply for Milwaukee Tools, and the process was a little lengthy, and he was getting very frustrated because he's been gone for a while, and he doesn't know how to work the phone. So I told him, don't get frustrated, take a deep breath, be patient. I'm sitting here with you doing it, and step by step. And he was like, well, that's why I let my sister do it for me. I said, well, no, you got to get out of that habit, because times like right now, I've come up here to help you. You couldn't get a hold of your sister, but if you knew how to do this, you could do it on your own. So just kind of instilling that in them, that it's okay to learn new things, and just be open-minded and be patient. You may not grasp it off top, but if you continue to work on it, you do a couple of electronic applications online, you're going to be good to go. So just getting them acclimated with everything as a whole, as far as the computer literacy, how to conduct themselves in an interview, how to hold their body, the body language, things like that is what I'm trying to instill in them, so that when they go on these interviews and things, they're going to seal their job.
Yeah, and that's another point. Yeah, that's also, you can lead them to water, but they gotta drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they gotta know how to do the thing. They gotta know how to operate the device. They gotta know how to type in the credentials on the website. They can't be relying on someone else for all these little things. You also gotta teach them, like, hey, some of this is on you to learn, because it's not difficult to learn. It's made to be learned, and they can do it. They just have to actually like sit down and like have a little bit of confidence in themselves, and not be like, oh, I'm just going to have somebody else do this. I mean, I find that with people in my life, especially older folks, but who aren't accustomed to technology. But you can see it. Anyone that's not been around the technology, who wasn't digitally a digital native, who was kind of like away from it for a while, and now is trying to catch up to it. They kind of come into it like, oh, it's scary, but you also have to teach them, like, hey, this is not something to be scared of, something you're going to have to get very used to. And so let's just get it out of the way now.
This is how things are done now. So, I just tell them, take your time. When you have downtime, just play around with a couple of apps and things. And then I also tell them, the same way you signed up and registered for Facebook, same way you do an application, the same information. So just kind of bringing those connections together for them, to let them know you can do it. If you did that, you can do this. And, just keeping them encouraged along the way.
Yeah, that's I think is just like being there alongside them, and just like giving them that motivation, that just positive reinforcement that you can do it, and that I think that goes a really long way, probably, right?
Yeah, most definitely, because a lot of them have heard so much negativity all the time. You're not anything. You're not gonna be anything. You ain't gonna learn. So if you've heard that over your life repeatedly, it kind of sticks until you get someone that comes in and say, "Oh no, yes you can." Don't say you're trying. Say you're gonna do it. You know, it's all about speaking things into existence and just having a positive outlook on it.
Yeah. The one thing I did want to reach back to that we talked about a little while ago was just the need to extract yourself, and how some people are they're not willing to give you a ride to work, but they're willing to put something in your hand. I think that's something really, really profound that I don't think people that haven't been through that experience grasp enough, is that there's people out there that will help you, but they're going to help you get back to where you were. They're not going to help
Benefiting themselves.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's not helping you, it's helping them.
Yeah, so I just tell them, like, sometimes we have to disconnect. I had to disconnect. You know, I've cut off a lot of people that, you know, that were near and dear to my heart, but if they were not on the same level as me, if they were not pouring into me as I poured into them, I had to let them go. And one thing that I'll say, you know, I tell them, I'm not telling you to leave your loved ones behind or anything, but sometimes you have to love people from a distance, and you have to really focus on self, because you can't help anyone until you get yourself helped. So, you know, just pour into yourself, invest in yourself. Like I tell them, make yourself an asset to these companies that you're trying to work for. Like, if you don't have any skills, okay, you need to start getting some skills so that when you come to them, you can say, okay, well, I have this certification, this. Make yourself a need. Make them want you. But if you go in empty-handed, I mean, you're going to get what you came in for.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. And so I guess is there anything else that you wanna touch on in this inaugural episode here, the very first one that we?
All I will say is you guys are going to really enjoy everyone that we're bringing out to speak. I hope that it opens a lot of people's eyes to see that, you know, those justice impacted, they are not their past. They just need some additional directive to get them on the right track. And, you know, I just want everybody to consider, like, giving them an opportunity, giving them time, and, you know, maybe you can pour into someone that's justice impacted. You never know how that'll change their life. And again, reducing recidivism requires relatability. And I think that people should really look into that and understand that. And like I said, no judgment zone, you know. Get to know them for who they are, regardless of what their past may be. And see you soon on Trapper's Theme, Trap the Transition.
Can't wait. Peace, y'all.
Peace.